Last time, we talked about something pretty grand and significant on the cosmic scale. So this time, I wanted to slow it down a little bit. This time, I wanted to talk to you about the common folk, the average man, the person that you would see every day, and basically how their life is, and what they do on a daily basis. So, without further ado, let's get started. Obviously, in this world, the gods are very well known. And it's because of that some things in the social hierarchy are a bit different. In this world, the gods are no strangers to mortals, and mortals are definitely no strangers to the gods. The gods commonly show themselves, and in fact, you could probably walk down an alleyway and take a whole venture to encounter a god, and there they are. They would be right there before you. So some things are very, very different when it comes to this world. One of those things being how mortals feel about the gods. Now, obviously, in this world, the gods are no strangers to mortals, and vice versa, as I have said before. Most humans will go about their typical lives just living how they are, probably not even acknowledging the gods. Others will pray short prayers and do whatever they need to get by. And then there's other individuals who pray and devote their entire lives to the gods. And on the other side of that coin, there are people that have dedicated themselves to annihilating the gods and completely doing everything they can to work against them. The most common of these people and most threatening is a society known as the Black Hand, which actively work with aberrations and the aberration mother Amaterasu, which will probably be a whole video on its own. And different types of aberrations to work with the end goal of annihilating the gods. Another thing about the social structure of this world is the guilds. There are 4 main guilds. There is the Shining Shields for nobles, the Iron Fist for other merchants and mercenaries. There is the Merchants Guild, and then there is the Black Blade, which is the Thieves Guild and Assassins. Now, typically, it's very hard to get all 4 of these guilds at one table because some of them have their conflicts with others for obvious reasons. One of the most well-known ones is the conflict between the Shining Shields and the Iron Fist, being that while the Iron Fist work to get their money from anybody who needs it and accept jobs from anybody where justice can be served, the Shining Shields only accept jobs from the rich, therefore keeping their status as a very important figurehead, and they are not below less than justifiable methods. Some other tensions you may see is between other races, most commonly high elves and tieflings. Not that these two butt heads against each other, but that most people don't see them in a kind light. High elves being seen as, well, studious and stubborn and completely dangerous, and tieflings being seen in almost the same way for obvious reasons, being that they are tainted by demonic power. Another thing people typically look at with very squinted eyes is Yuan-Ti, being that they are technically made from one of the gods, the god of trickery, lies, and deceit, so they look at Yuan-Ti in a similar fashion. Elves are mostly seen cautiously because of their varying nature and quick adaptability on the evolutionary scale. They can be very dangerous very quickly. Tieflings are seen as prevalent threats primarily due to that they are, much like the Yuan-Ti, from a less than favored god. For obvious reasons. However, there is one thing that people can agree on when it comes to a broader scale of things, and it's that magic and everything that has to do with magic should be celebrated. Magic is an ultimate utility to these people's lives, so there are entire festivals and celebrations made just to celebrate magic and its mere existence. Because magic has done many wonders for people in this world. And because of that, people really do like to see it in a bright light. Another thing that is commonly well known is the conflicts between some deities and others. For example, if you are to take a follower of Drago, the god of dragons, law, and chaos, who is the king of the gods, and you are to take Kron, who is the demon god of tyranny and the ultimate opposer to Drago. If you are to put two of these people in the same room, and they know that one follows the other god that they do not like, least likely will it result in a conflict, as in a throwing of fists, but they will probably throw some jabbing remarks at each other. Now, why these never result in violence, well, almost never, I should say, is because, well, in the end, there is still the law, and it must be upholded by the guards. Guards would be quick to settle and stop any sort of religious conflict that may arise, for obvious reasons. Now, most of these guards don't have a bias towards any deities, surprisingly. Now, this is primarily so that they can keep the peace and retain that sense of justice. Now, how things are commonly ran, while the gods do exist and they are a very active part in the society, it just makes a lot of sense for them to be involved in government matters, and they are. For minor towns and other such things, you have priests and high priests governing, specific towns along with the guilds and their respective territories. And then the archpriests mainly look over, while yes, some certain towns, other archpriests look over specific plots of land, whole districts, and other such things. The highest honor that can be bestowed to a mortal is also the considered highest level of power in the hierarchy, and that is being a god's champion. Now, when you are crowned a god's champion, you are the only champion of that god until you die or are demoted. A champion is very important because you are seen as the most favored person and most faithful of that god. Therefore, you are given considerable amounts of power and are given a special artifact. Each god has a specific artifact that they are to bestow upon their champion that can only be used by their champion. Now, the method in how a champion is decided is a very unique one. You see, whenever a champion falls or whenever they die, a contest is held between 5 candidates. These candidates have devoted their lives to a god and are now waiting for that chance to become a champion. Once the contest commences, which is unique to every god, they just either battle it out or try to steal something the fastest, depending on which god is holding this contest and which god these candidates have dedicated themselves to. Once one candidate wins against all of the others, that candidate is immediately declared the champion of that god, and any candidate can at any time challenge this champion. But the champion themselves obviously have other boons, and greater forms of dealing with these little challenges. As I've slightly touched on before, each god has an artifact that they bestow upon their champion with incredible power. And also other blessings that is not really accessible to other mortals. However, becoming a champion means you are to, hands down, be by that god at all times. You are the ultimate servant of that god. A very popular god is obviously Drago, who is the king of the gods. And then you have Bracken, who is his advisor and counselor. Bracken, is the one that sets up all divine affairs and all divine meetings. However, Drago's champion is to handle all the mortal affairs and handle everything mortal related. That's a very unique way of looking at it. Now, that is just one way of looking at it, because not all gods have the, luxury of having a other god to counsel and help them. But it is one of the most popular methods and setups that there is. Other gods will just have their champion be their advisor, knowing that one day they will eventually die. It's just fact. But once you are the chosen champion of a god, you are, one, held to very high standards, and as a benefit, you hold a lot of political power, though you are very rarely going to want to interact with the political world because you are too busy serving your god. Though being a god's champion is definitely not a thankless job. As a god's champion, you are constantly reminded every day that you have risen above the rest, and that you deserve the respect of other mortals, at least those that are lesser than you. Now, you should still show respect to other gods' champions, but you have risen above the rest in the eyes of your deity. In some cases, being a god's champion is the pinnacle of human achievement. Once you are a god's champion, you have truly reached the pinnacle of humanoid achievement. There is not much beyond that.